Hello again. So far this week, we've examined the origins of the United Nations system of international organisations. We've paid particular attention to the creation and operation of those directed for trade and finance respectively. We started the week by referring to the triangle fragmentation, governance and trust. Now, the international community is more fragmented than any national society could ever be. Its membership differs vastly in economic size, in population size and in military might. Their communication is conducted in a myriad of foreign tongues. Their cultures have been shaped by thousands of years of history. Their citizens pray to different gods, and their day-to-day existence ranges from obscene luxury to dire abject poverty. This fragmentation of experience far outweighs that is found within the borders of any single nation state. So in this video, we're going to ask what role, if any, does international governance have? Why do international organisations survive at all? Can they make a difference? And if so, for whom? Now, standing in the aftermath of the death and destruction of the Second World War, it was difficult to be optimistic on the future of the myriad of organisations created under the United Nations umbrella. The dominant paradigm of political scientists at the time was a belief termed realism. The world, it was argued, was in a state of almost permanent anarchy, and the only guiding principle for nation-states must be the promotion of its own national interest. International organisations would exist only for as long as they did not interfere with the pursuit of national interest, and as long as they provided some service towards that goal. The expectation was that that would not be for long, and yet they still survive today. Now, at this stage, the realists modified their position and became neo-realists or new realists. International organisations had survived, it was argued, because they did convey some real benefits. One tangible benefit was information. At least they provided a regular check on what other parties were thinking, or saying they were thinking. A second belief was they provided a regular forum for interaction. The organisation existed with rules, procedures, agendas and meeting places, and all of this was much easier than having to start afresh every time. And the third benefit was that international organisations were predictable and, for the larger parties, controllable. In the Security Council of the UN, the larger powers made sure that they were represented and that they had a veto. The United States and Europe happily made sure that they controlled the top positions in the World Bank and the IMF. And if that wasn't enough, the voting rules were fixed to ensure that they would always have a sympathetic majority. To take one example, in the IMF, the United States controls 16.75% of the votes. The EU collectively represents almost another 30%. Other friendly powers control slightly under 12%. The chances of being outvoted are remote. The BRICS, for example, collectively control 11.03%. A final benefit worth mentioning is that international organisations provide a system for monitoring whether agreements are kept. If one party in an agreement reneges on its obligation, it often undermines the commitment of others. And this monitoring is best done by a neutral third party than by one of the parties involved. Now, this pretty minimalist view of international organisations was challenged right from the start and from several angles. There were those who argued that collaborative behaviour could actually operate for the benefit of all, creating win-win situation. Benefits did not have to be obtained at each step in a series of one-off games. Depending on the range of issues, it was possible to benefit from what was called diffuse reciprocity, gains and benefits further down the line, and this in turn would help create compliant behaviour. Another argument was that statesmen have actually grown to like international organisations. At a basic level, it allows them to strut on the world stage and to raise their profile against domestic contenders for power. But it also provides the possibility for agenda setting. They can raise the stakes in what is essentially a domestic matter that might otherwise face difficulties in passing through parliaments by making it part of a larger international set of decisions. Others have argued that continuous participation of organisations could socialise its members. The benefits of this process ran in two directions. Some emphasised how officials working together to solve problems would extend their experience to other problems that they face and advocate similar solutions. This line of thinking was known as neo-functionalism. On the other hand, working together also facilitated the production of a coherent shared framework of discourse and observed behaviour. And this could even help contribute towards policy change within an organisation independent of the direction of participating countries. Though, of course, the state could always block this at a later stage. Now, this picture of shared rituals, experience and discourse is one that we recognised when we were looking at issues of trust and governance on a national scale. And it is an attractive one. A community of high-minded diplomats working together to solve common problems. But are they? Or is this all simply a veneer over a system whose dynamics lie elsewhere? Is the system empowered by movements of money and controlled by those who hold access to most of it? Or is it not controlled by anyone at all? Well, these are issues we'll touch upon in the next lecture. I'll see you next week.